Welcome again to another episode of Beyond the To-Do List. I'm your host, Eric Fisher. This week, I have an awesome interview with Pat Flynn of Smart Passive Income. He's going to talk to us a little bit about what passive income is, as well as how he does it smart. That's pretty basic, isn't it? No, what he's really going to talk about is what that is, as well as how he keeps his priority, his family, first in his hectic life schedule, especially with the addition of a newborn daughter. But first, I wanted to let you know that this week's episode is brought to you in part by GoToMeeting by Citrix. To be successful in business, you need to be able to meet with your team wherever they are, whenever you can, to discuss plans or share ideas. But often, people are not all in one place, and so you need to be able to do a face-to-face meeting, and that's not possible unless you're using GoToMeeting with HD Faces. GoToMeeting with HD Faces allows you to share the same screen and make it easier for you and your team to all be on the same page. You can connect with anyone from anywhere, and you can even use your iPad, iPhone, or even Android apps. You can have up to 15 people in a meeting, and up to 6 people can share their webcams at the same time. Try GoToMeeting free for 30 days. Don't wait. For this special offer, visit GoToMeeting.com, click on the Try It Free button, and use the promo code PODCAST. Be sure to use the promo code PODCAST. GoToMeeting. Meeting is believing. Well, it's my great privilege. Start over. Take 2. Well, it's my great privilege. That's great.
Dude, this has to go in the show now, like the bloopers.
Yeah. All right. Take 3. This is the privilege that I have to leave in my bloopers and introduce to you Pat Flynn. Welcome, Pat.
Thank you for having me, Eric. I appreciate it. And first of all, before we say anything, I just want to say congrats to you and your podcast. It's awesome. I love seeing it in the top of the ranks, and I'm sure it's going to stay there for a long time.
When I keep getting awesome guests like you, I'm sure that'll happen. So thanks so much for the kind words.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah. I wanted to have you on a long time ago. I just was trying to figure out what's the right angle. And then I suddenly realized, well, there's a ton of people out there who don't know what your 3 keywords mean. And those 3 words are smart, passive, income. What is that?
Well, first let me talk about passive income, and then I'll go into the smart part of it. Okay. Well, passive income, there's a billion different definitions for it. There's the investor's definition, there's a real estate definition. But I mean, for me and sort of what I teach passive income as a way to build online businesses in a way that you can set them on autopilot or basically creating systems of automation so you can earn money without having to trade your time directly for money. When we work 9 to 5 or whatever, you work X hours, you get paid X hours, or you work for a certain salary that you have every year. But with passive income, you can create these businesses, you can invest time up front first so you can continually earn later without you actually having to put in time directly to earn that money back. I mean, the way I say it, and a lot of people were confused about this when I first started my site, passive income, well, you can build these things and you can step away from them forever. No, you have to, you're going to have to upkeep them a little bit, especially online where it's forever changing. So you'll have to, upkeep them a little bit and update things for the times, but you can build businesses, and I've done several, that can earn money for you continually over time without you having to trade your time for it. For example, I have a number of sites. One of them in particular, the first one I started with is at greenexamacademy.com. It's a site I built to help people pass the LEED exam. It's an exam in the architecture industry, and I created a study guide for this site. And so people can come to the site, purchase the study guide. It's an eBook, purposely not a physical book because, again, I'm trying to take myself away from the business as much as possible. So people can come to the site, buy a book, and once they hit the Buy Now button or submit their billing information, it gets sent to them automatically via email, a link to go download that, and then money goes into my PayPal account, and I can make money 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, without me having to actually be there for a transaction to complete, which is beautiful and it's awesome. And the best part about that is it allows you to spend your time otherwise, whether it's for building even more businesses, which is what I love to do as well, or also spend time with family or travel or whatever. And family is my most important thing. So I'm just very fortunate to have several of these types of passive income businesses set up in a way that allows me to be there for my kids and witness their first steps. And I just had a new daughter enter the family, and she's amazing. And so I've been taking sort of a month off, I guess you could say, just to spend time with her and my wife and be there. And the businesses have continued to run. So that's the passive income part of it. Now the smart part is, for me on my site, what I do is I share a bunch of different ways that I try to generate an income online. And the smart part about it is to try and approach it in a way where I'm going to fail less. I'm going to fail. Of course, I failed several times. But the idea is approaching it in a way that, you've educated yourself as much as you can, and you're putting things into action to decrease the amount of failure so you can have success. And what I do on my site is I share everything. I share the successes, the failures, everything, so that people who come to the site who are interested in what I do and who want to try to do something similar can have a head start, can probably do it much faster or more successful than I could, because I've already gone through the failures and they can not do what I just did or do what I did even better. That's not to say that everyone who does online business or tries to create a passive income will succeed. I mean, I'm going to be honest up front. It's very difficult. It takes a long time. But the options and opportunities are out there. It takes a certain kind of person, a certain kind of dedication, someone who will always fall forward, will welcome failure when it comes and learn from their mistakes and keep moving forward. Someone who will take risks, someone who will get uncomfortable sometimes, and it takes that kind of entrepreneur to see this kind of success. And a lot of people are doing it, but also at the same time, a lot of people are trying and failing for various reasons. And as you can probably tell, those of you listening, I just had literally a minute ago a cup of coffee, so I'm just on fire right now. And if you need to slow it down halftime to hear what I say, I apologize.
Hit the minus 30 seconds, well, more like minute and a half. Listen to that all that again, and then come back to here. But I'm glad you're on fire.
Cool.
So I get that. I get what passive income is. I'm glad you're explaining what the smart part about it is, because, I mean, to be honest, when someone says passive income, I already think that's a smart thing. You're just approaching it more strategically, more
Correct.
Intelligently, and trying to, that's a perfect way to put it, is to fail fewer times, fail less, or fail more often so you just get through the gauntlet quicker. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Great. For people out there who, that's the first time they have ever heard that definition or have been introduced to that concept of passive income or smart passive income, and they're already got wheels turning in their mind of, I've got an idea for something that might become a passive income model for me. What would you suggest to them to test that, or to try and do initial steps to see if it's even a viable option?
Yeah, well, the first thing I want to say is that you should absolutely test it or try it out, and don't be afraid to move forward. A lot of people have these amazing ideas, but they never act on it. They never take action. And that sucks, because who knows how many amazing ideas out there who would have made people money or given them time and freedom to do whatever it is they want, but they just didn't do it because they didn't take that risk, or they were too afraid to, or they felt like they didn't have time or the money to start. And the thing, before I say anything about that, is you can make time for yourself to do that. You just have to really want it. And as far as the monetization or money in investing into a business like this, it doesn't take very much at all, because all it really takes is a little bit of time and some smarts, like we were talking about earlier. But we're not reaching out to angel investors here. We're not at least not the type of businesses that I do. I mean, the probably the most expensive thing I've created was my iPhone application company. Building iPhone apps as a source of passive income. That's one way to do it. And so my partner and I, that particular business, we pay developers to create those programs and apps for us, because we don't have any programming experience. And so we pay them between $500 to $6,000 depending on how complicated the app is. But that's the only investment. I mean, you hear about these startups and stuff, and companies getting seed funds for X amount of dollars, millions of dollars. But then at the same time, they're giving away a lot of the portion of that company to those investors too. And that's something that also you don't have to do when you're building a business for yourself. So if you have an idea and you want to test it out, the first thing I'd actually do is see what else is out there that is similar to it. And a lot of times people will do that and they'll say, there's this company out there and they're already doing exactly what I wanted to do. I'm just going to scrap this idea. And that's very common. I mean, I've had that issue plenty of times, but that's actually a great sign that your business is a good idea. You might not have been the first one to do it, but it's not always good to be the first one to come up with an idea because, if you're the first one and you do it, other people can come in and do it better, or you may not have done it the way that it should have been. But when you see other competitors out there, who have your idea or some similar version of it, that's great because there's a market for it. And two, you can go out there, see what they're doing and see what they're missing, or see how it aligns with your idea and how you can take it to the next level and serve that market much better than what's already out there is doing. There's just, I always use this example of the dry cleaners. I think there's like 483 dry cleaners in San Diego. I mean, that's so many, but they each serve a different purpose. They each serve a different market. And some people just go to ones more than others just because they like the people, the owners better. So, I mean, even though you have an idea that someone else already had, that's not a bad thing. So I definitely go out there and try it. There are other things you could do. I mean, there's this Tim Ferriss model of testing where you can build a site, you can promote that product or idea or whatever it is and have people, quote, pay for it or go through a payment process. But then at the end say, sorry, we're out of this product, or sorry, we're coming out very soon, or, we have yet to come out with this. But, the purpose behind that is just to see how much interest there is in that particular product. So basically you get people to the end of a sales funnel. At the end, you say, sorry, enter your name and email so that when you do come out with that product, you already have a list of buyers or customers. And the thing about that is, how do you get people to come to the site without people knowing about it? Well, if you have an audience and, everything is easier if you have an audience already. Like, for example, when I launched my ebook for greenexamacademy.com, my study guide, I had an audience already. There were people visiting my site already. I was ranking really high in Google already. So it made it that much easier to earn an income with that particular product. And the first month I launched that product, I had earned $7,905.83. And a lot of people are like, how did you do that? And I'm like, well, I had over a year and a half built an audience. Well, what if you don't have that audience? Then you might have to invest a little bit of money to, like what Tim Ferriss does. And I forget the exact examples he gives in his book, but he talks about someone who sells this particular kind of clothing or something like that. You have to pay for advertising a little bit. So you could target your particular audience on Facebook and see what the interest is like. And it won't cost very much. Depending on how the advertising is, you could spend anywhere between 50 cents or $1.50 per click. And then based on, say you have 100 people coming to your site, based on the interest and how many people go, how far in that sales funnel process, you can kind of determine how successful is that product going to be? And you can also see on your sales page, where people are dropping off or where people might lose interest. So you can improve that so that when you do come out with your product, you'll have something that's much better. Now, if you do have an audience, one of the worst things you could do is just come out with a product and say, here's my product, go buy it. You want to really kind of engage with your audience before you create anything, because a lot of people will create products because they think that's what their audience wants. And then when they sell it, they don't sell very much, or it's not as much as they thought they were going to, and they wonder why. Well, your most important asset is your audience. So tap into them, ask them what their problems are, what their pains are, what they need help with, and create products around that. I mean, you can simply ask them. If you have an email autoresponder, one thing I like to do in my autoresponder, which I picked up from Derek Halpern as well, Derek Halpern from Social Triggers, he actually asks in his autoresponder, what are your problems? What can I help you with? Or what pains do you have with marketing right now? Because he has a marketing blog, and he gets direct answers just like I do from my particular subscribers about what kinds of things are on people's minds, and those are things that you can create products out of. And there's no guessing involved whatsoever. You know that those products, if there's a number of people mentioning the same thing, that's going to be something that people are going to want.
I get this sense, and I get this sense not just from listening to you, but also from hearing other people talk about you, that not only is you doing what you do with Smart Passive Income about you making money to be able to focus on your priority, which is your family. But you've got this innate sense of you just want to help people and serve people. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of people are like, oh, well, Pat, you have this successful site at Green Exam Academy. It was at one time making $30,000 a month. Why would you give everything away for free on Smart Passive Income? And I do. I give away all that information for free about how to build the site and everything I've done in all my businesses. I do that for free because what happened to me with Green Exam Academy, that happened after I got laid off, which was one of the lowest points in my life. So I went from having a steady 9-to-5 job in the architecture industry, something I thought was completely secure, getting called into my office, being told, Pat, you're one of the youngest, smartest guys we have in the office. We have to let you go. And that didn't make any sense to me at all. Why are those two things in the same sentence without the word not in there? And it just didn't make sense to me. So from that point forward, I was like, I got to always stay in control and what are my options? So that's when I discovered online business and internet marketing. And I do have to give a shout out to my friends Jeremy and Jason from Internet Business Mastery, who are the ones who inspired me to go online and truly changed my life in the course of it. And so my giving away all this information is my way of just spreading the possibilities, because, so many amazing things have happened since I've gone online, from, not only just earning this income, but realizing a lot of my dreams, not even just staying home with my family, but checking a lot of things off on my bucket list, like public speaking and being invited to public speaking events, or, being an extra on a movie actually is a result of me being online as well, which was always a lifelong dream. And so I know through experience that so many awesome things can happen if you put yourself out there online and you create something and you just, try to develop a huge community that, I just want other people to experience that too. I mean, I get my most fulfillment from the thank yous that I get. And that's what I'm selfish about. I love to collect thank you notes and thank you letters. I have a specific folder in my Gmail, business apps account where I drop in all the thank you notes that I get. I have a shoebox right here in front of my desk. I'm actually looking at it right now, of handwritten letters that people sent to me saying thank you for this, or some people actually sent me their first $1 that they've earned. Which is awesome. And I love that. And that's how I know that I'm doing something right, because I'm actually helping people and I'm changing people's lives. And the thing is, if that becomes your first priority, helping other people, then the money, the income, the growth in your business, that'll all come naturally. Because what is business for anyways? I mean, it's not just to make money, but you're actually using business to help people improve their lives, or give them entertainment, or give them something that they don't have. And if you can do that, that's when the money comes in, the success, the growth, the publicity, everything comes in as a result of helping people. And that, it's just become I've just always been a helpful person, I guess. I don't know. That's just who I am. And it turns out that that's the best business model in the world, is just helping people.
Definitely. That's awesome. I mean, I love hearing you say that. I mean, that just rings true for myself and what I'm trying to do with this show as well. So I know, as far as priorities go, then, I mean, you'd still say family, top of it.
Of course.
Is that what you'd say?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And so then is your office at home?
My office is at home. Yeah, I'm sitting in it right now.
Great. How do you then approach this thing that is called work-life balance? Like, how do you differentiate between your office is at your home, so that's life. Although that there's, again, I don't fully love that phrasing, to be honest, work-life balance, because that's like saying that your work isn't part of your life.
Right.
And you're trying to balance between, I'm going to work now, but I'm not going to be living there. And then you get home and your work wasn't fulfilling. Like, it's kind of a fallacy. So accepting that, it's more like,
I've never thought of it like that. That's funny.
But anyway, work-life balance, as most people use the terminology, as I've had to use like other terms that I don't personally like, and other people don't personally like when it comes to productivity terms. But again, work-life balance. You just did a recent episode on this of Smart Passive Income. So that was really nice to kind of use that as a primer for what questions to ask. But I want to dig a little deeper.
Sure.
And in fact, let me start with the question that I always ask everybody, which is, in an ideal world, how do you begin your day?
in an ideal world, I begin my day with my son calling for my name, or daddy calling. It would be weird if he was like that. Calling me from his room for me to go and get him. That's how every morning starts. Daddy, 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 daddy. Like he yells it because his room's across the hall. And then I go get him. Then we have breakfast together. I let my wife sleep. And the schedule's been a little different now since my daughter's been born.
Right.
But generally it's the same thing. My son wakes me up and I see him first thing in the morning. That's my ideal life.
Awesome. So then from that point where you're awake, your son's awake. How old is your son anyway?
He's 2.5, but
oh, wow.
he pretends to be 4 or 5 sometimes.
Nice. So then you're eating breakfast. Say, at what point do you move from, okay, daddy's got to go to work in the house somewhere else?
Well, it's interesting. I'm very fortunate to have a business that allows me to, just completely stay at home and not have to leave the home at all. But work actually starts in the evening after the kids are asleep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
This is even more interesting than I thought.
Yeah. I mean, I do when luckily my son's been really good. I mean, we're so blessed to have him because he's such a good sleeper and he sleeps the same time every day and doesn't wake up when he's sleeping. It's great. So I know that at 1 p.m. Pacific, he goes down for a nap and I have basically an hour or an hour and a half to do some kind of business, which is right now. I'm recording this with you at 1:55 p.m. When he's actually in the room next to me down for a nap. And that's when I can do this type of stuff I have to do in the afternoon because, other people are awake at this time. And that's when they work. But most of my work is done between the hours of 8 p.m. and 2 p.m. or 8 p.m. and 2 a.m. Around midnight at night. And that helps me. And I know this definitely isn't for everyone, but that's how I can more easily separate family time from work time. Because that was a big problem for me at first. Even before I had the kids, really, my wife and I would get into fights about, me being in work time. Was I working? Was I not working? Was she okay? Was it okay to, come and chat with me and sit down, or was I focused? Like that line was not in place at all. So, it helped, to sit down and talk with her and say, okay, this is what I'm going to work. When I'm working, I really need to be focused on this. But when I'm not working, I'm going to be focused on family time. That was another issue too. Like sometimes I'd be with my family, and I still struggle with this sometimes. And I know all entrepreneurs struggle with this, or most do. I'll be in family time or non-work time, but in my brain, I'm still thinking about my business, something about my business or something. And there's a lot of things you could do that makes that happen, which we probably shouldn't do. For example, sometimes I'll go on my phone and check an email. Worst mistake in the world when you're not in work time, because some of those emails are okay for just flipping through a second. Maybe I'm just waiting in line somewhere and I'm flipping through emails, and they're just emails I could read and be done with. But some of them require a response or something, or some of them are maybe something happened that needs immediate that needs me to think about something and respond. And then I can't not think about that after I read that email. But if I just put that down and didn't look at those emails until it was actually time to work, I would have probably been better off, because then I know that I would have been with my family mentally as well as physically during that time. But also when I'm in work time and I get those types of emails, I can address those things right away. So yeah, I mean, it was a big struggle, but I mean, it's nice to have a home office. It's nice to have the door to my office. And one other thing that I've done, which has been helpful, is I've actually purchased a second computer, which is just for personal time only, because a lot of times when I was working, I was getting distracted with Facebook and YouTube, and I'd be like watching a video, and 45 minutes later, I'd be like 7 videos later. I would just waste all this time during my what was supposed to be work time in the evening. And so that I caught myself with that. And, it might sound funny and it might sound just like an excuse, but, I bought another computer, a laptop that's only for personal stuff. I cannot do work stuff on that computer. And so, but again, with the daughter in my life now, things have been meshed a little bit. So, this morning, actually, my son slept a little bit longer than usual, and my daughter woke me up, and I woke her up and fed her, or my wife fed her, and then handed her over to me, and then she was sleeping on my shoulder, and I actually typed about 90% of a blog post with one hand, and published it today, actually. So that was pretty fun. But I'm getting really good at the one-handed typing thing, and I actually looked on YouTube. There's actually a thing called Frogpad, which is a one-handed keyboard, which I'm like halfway wanting to conquer. I think that would be such an amazing skill to type with one hand. Just, there's just, you see the guy type on the Frogpad, it's like super fast. I'm like, oh, that'd be so awesome to do that. And then maybe in the other hand, have another Frogpad and just like type 2 documents at one time. I don't know. But
oh, wow. Yeah, that's way too ambitious for me at this point. I think I'm good when I can do a one-handed email response with my iPhone in my one hand and holding my son or something. That's crazy. So how do you, like, say you're in work mode and something comes up, like an interruption from the family side of things, and you realize, okay, it is a priority. I do need to step in or step out, whichever that is. Mm-hmm. How do you get back into work mode?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, typically you want to just minimize the amount of interruptions, and that's prevention, I guess, is what the term for it. So you just make sure that whoever is there knows that when you're in work mode, if something isn't an absolute emergency, to just not interrupt you. And so that's been good. I work when my kids are asleep, and they're pretty good sleepers, so they're not going to interrupt me, which is good. But those interruptions will come sometimes, and if that's the case, I think the hardest part about interruptions is not going away from your work and figuring out what it is that you need to do outside of it. But I think the hardest part is getting back into what you were doing before. Mm-hmm. And so the first part about that is just remembering exactly where you were. So if I'm ever interrupted with anything, I usually say, okay, give me 10 seconds. I'll come up with a notepad, or just I'll pull up my notes on my Mac or whatever, and I'll just write exactly what I was doing, the thoughts, like the 1 or 2 thoughts that I had right before I was interrupted, just so I could remember where to go, where I left off. I think that's really important, because some people spend minutes trying to remember where they were, trying to get back into the pace that they were in before they were interrupted. And that 2 or 3 minutes might not sound like a lot, but if you do this over time, it's going to add up to days, and that's been really helpful for me. So just people aren't going to remember everything always. So I always write down the few things right before I was interrupted, when I'm interrupted. And then when I get back into it, I see those and I'm like, okay, that's where I was. I'm going to pick up. And, it might take a minute or two to get back into the rhythm. But I'm that much more ahead because I knew where I was before.
That's great. That's a really good way to shoehorn your way back into regaining your momentum and your flow.
Yeah, it is. And that's like the whole smart thing. It's it's these little types of tips that will take your business and your life a long way. And it might be like, no, I mean, I don't want to spend an extra 10 seconds doing this little thing. But it's these little things that you do now that take effort and take discipline, that will just take like I said, take your life to the next level, or help you out so much more in the long run. It's like what I do in Smart Passive Income. I build businesses. Some of them take months, a couple take years to do. You're investing that much time so that things can help and pay you back later.
Was the introduction of kids into your life what made you shift from, say, a 9 to 5 home work schedule, or were you already doing that before they came?
Before they came, I was on like a 9 to 12, like 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. random, no schedule type of work schedule. It was just like, okay, whenever I needed something to do, I go do it. And then whenever something came up and I, if we wanted to go to the grocery store, so I just go. And it was very flexible and lax, and it sucked because, again, my wife was confused about when I was working, when I wasn't. So there was some, miscommunication, some communication issues there. And even mentally, I wasn't where I should have been wherever I was. And so, the kids actually helped. They helped me in a couple ways. One, they helped me figure out a schedule. A schedule that works based on how I know I like to work and am the most productive. And 2, how to be more productive, because I work less than I did before, but I feel like I get more done because I'm more productive. I'm more focused. I know that I have, although I don't know the specific number all the time because sleep is always, it's not always at the same exact hour, but I have less hours, but I'm more productive because I know I have less time overall. So I've just become super productive, super efficient. I love little hacks and things like that to become more efficient, and like I kill it with Evernote and now like all that whole thing. I just love figuring out ways to earn an extra minute during the day.
So you had a real shift there in terms of your boundaries and your expectation for yourself as well as in your relationships.
Yeah,
in that transition with the kids. That's one of those things is like, it's funny. I mean, I felt like I was more free and able to do whatever before my wife and I had kids, but I wasn't really spending my time very wisely. Now, yeah, I mean, it kind of imposes a structure on you that you kind of, once you figure out a way to do it, you actually become more set to be more productive, it's one of those things. I think Michael Hyatt was the one that said it when I interviewed him. He said, the things that are calendared or put on the calendar are the things that get done. Mm-hmm. So you're kind of just in essence doing that. So
yeah, definitely.
Has there been any changes between kid 1 and 2?
Well, kid 2 is still on a totally random schedule. I think, work wise, I've been sort of taking time off. I was actually writing a book and I had to put that on hold just for a little bit because of baby number 2. And then as far as getting ahead on some of the projects I was working on, I've had to delegate a lot of that work that I was going to do myself to virtual assistants, which is actually probably a good thing. Again, this is another example of, like another kid in your life making your life even more productive, which is interesting. But yeah, I mean, she's finally starting to get on a schedule and allowing me to find more time during the day to work. And it's just, I've since been even more obsessed with becoming more efficient, more productive since she came along. But I've also since felt like internally and just personally that I have so much more to work for and so much more reason to kill it when I'm working it, but also to stay focused on my family when I am in family time and really enjoy the time I have with them. I mean, my son grew up so fast. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I know the same thing is going to happen with my daughter, and I want to make sure that I, savor these moments. And, I'm taking a bazillion pictures. If any of you are on Instagram, you would know that. I just love it. And so they it's like twice as much inspiration for me, since the second kid came around.
Yeah. Well, so the ebook, how were you doing that for a while? Was it an ebook? I forget. The one that I was writing.
Yeah, it's going to be a book on the Kindle platform. I've been hearing a lot of amazing things, and about how hot the Kindle platform was. A lot of people I know are doing it, and so I wanted to explore that. And so I was writing a book. I have about 25,000 words out of about probably aiming between 40 and 50,000, and that's my daughter actually. I was planning to get that done before my daughter came. She was due at the end of September 2012, but she came at the beginning of September. So I lost about 2 or 3 weeks of planned time. I was going to finish the book, but I knew that was probably going to happen because my son was born a month early too. So, the book's been that in itself. I could talk a whole hour about. I mean, that's such a huge challenge. I could write a blog post. I could write a 2,000 word blog post in 4 hours and just crank it out. But for a while, I was just struggling to get a paragraph in that book because it just feels so different. It feels more, I don't know, official, and I'm like second guessing every word. Like, should that be the word I use? Or it's a huge internal challenge. But I feel like anytime I'm faced with these types of challenges, that's how I know that when I go through them and I conquer them, that it's going to be something amazing for my business. And I know that when I finish this book, it's gonna do wonders for my brand and not only earn a little bit more income, but get my name out there more and hopefully open up more opportunities for me.
Yeah, definitely. I for one am really excited about getting that in my Kindle hands, I guess. Speaking of which, are you a Kindle geek?
I'm not a Kindle geek. My wife is, but I am. I've just been getting to the Kindle stuff lately. I mean, I mostly read. To be honest, I don't dedicate a lot of free time to reading. I do a lot of free time. I dedicate a lot of free time to my family. But when I do have that free time, I will read. Like, if on my phone, if I'm waiting in line or something, I'll pull up the Kindle app on my phone. Lately, I've been reading a lot of books about presentations because I'm doing a lot of public speaking next year, and I'm just trying to master that craft, and I'm so far from mastering it, but I'm enjoying the process. And I'm trying to learn from the best. So I have a lot of Nancy Duarte books and Dale Carnegie type stuff on there right now.
Great. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of iPhone in my hand reading because I sold my Kindle to purchase the new one, which will be
a week. The
so.
white paper or the new Fire?
The Paperwhite.
Oh, the Paperwhite. Yeah,
yes.
That's cool. Yeah, I just saw a commercial for that yesterday. It looks awesome.
Yeah, looks good. I mean, I was pleased with what I had, which was the Kindle Touch, but I just knew, okay, I want a crisper screen. I want a lighted screen that's not, backlit and in my face like an iPad screen or anything. So, but I'm surprisingly really loving reading on my iPhone, which I didn't think I was going to do, but apparently it works,
I love it,
especially for the Pocket,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I should say this, but I do a lot of my reading on Can.
All right.
With my phone.
You went there.
Yeah, I went there. I'm all about transparency and honesty, and I'm going there. But yeah, I mean, I just wherever I can get an extra minute, I'll read on my phone.
Okay, well then, speaking of getting extra minutes, you and I are both involved with a few other people like Cliff Ravenscraft and Michael Stelzner, and I'm forgetting his name, Mark Mason.
Mark Mason, yep, from Mason.
And I'm forgetting somebody else too, and I'm sorry, but we do Fitbit.
Woohoo!
And how are you fitting that in? Are you just doing that when you're out and about with kids, like in the morning, or?
Yeah, you know what? Like, I just bought my Fitbit. I know you talked about it in one of your recent episodes with Michael Stelzner, but I just got mine maybe 4 days ago, and I'm loving it because of the whole competition aspect of it. Like, I'll take extra steps. I'll make sure that when I'm, holding my daughter, that I'm not just sitting there, but I'm walking around,
nice.
to get some extra steps on you guys and try to push you guys a little bit further. But, I'm loving it. And I am actually, starting to go on the sort of like, midnight runs. I'll take a break during work to go out on 11:30 p.m., run around the block a few times to get another workout in before the midnight hour. And, yeah, I'm
kind of like your lunch hour.
Yeah, it is.
Second shift there.
It is. I mean, I'm loving it. I love the Fitbit. I love the competition aspect of it. I love how it kind of. I mean, I think that's how you and I connected first, is through Fitbit. I mean, I knew about your podcast and stuff, but that's where I saw your name the most before chatting with you here today. So it's really cool. I mean, I think anyone who is just looking to make sure that they force themselves to exercise at least a little bit, pick up a Fitbit, just check how many steps you have, and it's so much fun.
It really is. I mean, again, like I told Michael, I sit at my desk during the day and even at night, and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, oh, I got to figure out a way. What's my next break going to be, and where am I going to go walk to? What errand do I need to run so I can get more steps in? Or what can we do tonight that's an activity that maybe we go on a walk or something, different things like that. Mm-hmm. Aside from I've been doing like 5K training for last couple months. So
nice.
I have some days where it's really high and then other days where it's just below the average, which is fine. So,
And you know what? Like, working out and exercising is so helpful for productivity mentally, and just staying focused. I feel like walking is not much of a workout for me, because I used to do a lot of P90X and Insanity and those types of things. So, but when I started to work out, I started to feel a huge boost in productivity and focus, and I got a lot more work done, and I was actually more awake when I'm awake because of exercise. So I think it's just so your body needs this to your body just needs to exercise to be able to function properly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely. And I'm gonna have a friend of mine come on and talk all about the physical aspect of stress and work and how that all relates to productivity sometime in the near future. So
that'd be a good one.
I'm glad people are getting a little bit of a hint of that, though, in the meantime. So, well, then you're doing different things to do steps and things like that throughout your work day. And obviously you're doing kind of more like a second shift as far as your main work time. I'm curious to see, and I know this has kind of been on hiatus, but how are you working out or plan to work out date night Thursdays?
So my wife and I, we used to always go on these date nights every Thursday, which I think is extremely important, especially with the kids or with the kid around. When we had our son and only our son, we would go on date nights every Thursday. We would drop off Keone, our son, to grandma and grandpa's house, and we would go on a date night. Again, very important. You need that alone time with your partner every once in a while. And that was a good place for us not just to get away from the kid, but to talk about things that we couldn't talk about, or just be with each other for a while and hold each other's hands, which you can't do when the kids are around, things like that. But since the second baby's come, we definitely don't have the time to do a date night for now. So it is on pause for now. And so when she gets a little older, at least when she starts to eat solid foods, I think then that's when we can have grandma and grandpa try to watch two kids maybe, and then we can go on a date night again, or maybe just once a month at least. But I think it's really important to do that type of thing. You hear all these stories about parents who have kids and then they don't have any time for each other anymore and they grow apart. Like, that's the last thing I want to happen. And I think since having kids, my wife and I have grown a lot closer together, and I think the date nights have become very important for that.
Yeah. Well, since you're not necessarily doing that right now, how do you kind of do substitutionary type activities, with your wife, since you're not necessarily going out on date night?
Yeah, well, we'll go out during the day together as a family, and just go out and hang out together. I mean, it's just nice to be around each other, even if the kids are there. But then also just engaging in conversation, bringing up different things. A lot of times, you'll see these couples who sit there with their kids and they're not talking to each other. They're just so focused on the kids. But I like to, my wife likes to also just talk about stuff, random stuff. We'll bring up old memories. We'll talk about future plans and things like this, stuff to get us excited about the future. We talk about our kids in front of them, but in good ways, It just talking. I mean, just talking can do so much, just like exercise can do so much for focus. I mean, just talking and communicating is so important to a relationship. And we've just been doing as much as we can when we're around each other. When I'm not working, I'm always with all of them. I will say that also we have a sort of bonding time during the week now. Now that it's September and the fall season and some of the television shows have come out, I'm not afraid to admit that we do watch Dancing with the Stars. It's one of my guilty pleasures, and actually one of my goals.
Really?
One of my far-fetched, probably will never ever happen goals is to be on that show. That would be awesome.
Now, would you be the star, or would you dance with a star?
I would be the star, hopefully.
Nice.
And that's one of the only reasons why I want to be a star. I don't want to be a celebrity. I don't want to go down the street and have people say, "Oh my gosh, Pat Flynn, could I have your autograph?" I'm not all about that, but I would do that if that means I could get a spot on Dancing with the Stars. And my wife also loves some of the professional dancers on there, like Tristan. I don't know if any of you watch him, but she's in love with that guy. And so I'm we always poke fun at each other and stuff. But yeah, we follow it and it's fun. It's just our fun little bonding thing. I'm not afraid to admit that, but it's another thing we could discuss during conversations. Who do you think is going to get kicked off this week and blah, blah, blah. I mean, I know it's not necessarily the best TV out there, but there's a lot worse things that we could watch. We don't watch Jersey Shore or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, you're still spending quality time. Maybe even if people would debate about the quality of the television, there's no denying you're spending quality time with your spouse at that point.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
That's perfect. It sounds like we've caught you in a very an ongoing transitional time in your life.
You have. Mm-hmm.
I'm curious to see how, when you first got started, your own individual work, basically you got laid off, and from then till now, what can you tell somebody are some of the roadblocks or some of the, hey, watch out for this, or when I first got started, this was one of the biggest problems I've had to overcome. Can you share some of those maybe pitfalls, roadblocks, weaknesses that maybe even you still struggle with?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely all of this was not easy for me at all, and it was I've been learning everything along the way, and I didn't come into it knowing exactly what to do, but you kind of learn along the way, and I think there's a lot of things I could say when it comes to that question. I mean, the first thing, and luckily I haven't experienced this, but I know it's something that a lot of people experience, so I want to address it. You know, when you start to work for yourself, it's really easy to get pulled back down by other people that are around you, whether it's family or friends who just don't believe in you, or who, you know, try to put you down, or don't think that that's the right thing to do. You know, probably the closest I got to that was my dad when I got laid off, saying, you know, when he saw me starting to do this online business stuff, he told me, you know, I think that you should probably go back to school. This would be a good time to go to school and get your master's, and then when the economy comes back, that's when you can kind of come back into the architecture industry with that much more experience and get a better pay, right? And I was like, no, I need to be in control of my own destiny. I want it to be so that if I fail, I want it to be because of my own faults. I don't want it to be because of anything I couldn't control.
Yeah, well, like you said, they let you go, and you were the young and smart and brightest, and so that's no indication of being able to be in control anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's why I was just disgusted by that whole thing. I know I'm not the only one to go through something like that. But you know, a lot of people I've spoken to have family or friends who pull them down. You know, it's this whole crabs in the bucket effect. You know, if you put a bucket of crabs in the middle of wherever, and one starts to climb out, all the other crabs will pull that crab back down, and that's just the way it goes. So you'll never see any crabs crawl out of that bucket, and so the idea is to surround yourself with people as much as possible with people who have goals that are in line with yours, or who can encourage you, whether they're friends who you know, believe in you, or even other entrepreneurs who are doing something similar to you. So one of the most important things that I've discovered was the mastermind group, and it was a mastermind group that actually got me to write an ebook. And it was direct advice from someone in a mastermind group to write an ebook about, you know, for my audience on my lead exam site, and that changed my life. It was again a mastermind group that told me that I should turn that book into an audio guide. It was a mastermind group that told me that I should probably become more personal on the Smart Passive Income blog, because I have a personality that people can connect to, and that changed the whole course of my blog too. And again, so meeting with these people every week, which is what I do. Actually, I'm not in that mastermind group anymore, the one I just told you about, because they disbanded. People went their own ways. But I'm actually in two mastermind groups right now. One meets on Wednesday, one meets on Monday at 9 a.m. Another one meets on Wednesday at 9 a.m. And they're all online, so you don't even have to be with people in your local area or travel out of the house. You can talk on a conference call or go to a meeting or anything like that. And I have to credit my mastermind groups with my success. That without them, I would not be where I'm at today. It's just so good for motivation, for advice and tips and accountability. I mean, there's nothing like it. So that would be the first piece of advice I want to give you. Just surround yourself with people and try to get into mastermind groups with people who have goals or who have goals that are aligned with yours. Another pitfall for me or struggle with me was you know, hiring other people to help me with my business. I was such a guy when it comes to my business. When it came to my business at first, I had to do everything. I had to do everything myself. I had to figure it out on my own if I didn't know how to do it, and I wasted so much time. I don't know if it was pride or whatever you want to call it, but I wasted so much time because of it. And I remember, you know, especially with the technology aspect, and that's another struggle, you know, the technology part of doing business online. A lot of people, that's their hurdle, that's their brick wall. They don't ever get over it. But, you know, things are a lot easier today than they were back then to set up a site and things like that, or to set up an e-commerce store, you know, there's plugins and things that'll do that for you. As far as pride and that whole thing, you know, I try to do everything myself. At one time, I remember spending 8 hours trying to figure out on WordPress how to move a little banner that was on the left side of my site to the right side. It took 8 hours to figure that out. And if I just simply asked someone, even some of my friends who did web development, or if I went on a forum somewhere and just said, hey, I need some help with this, or if I hired someone through Elance or Odesk, which I do all the time now for little jobs that I don't know how to do, I would get stuff done so much faster. Things would be much cleaner and much more professional looking than if I did them on my own. And that's why with my FONet business, we always hire developers who know what they're doing to do those things for us. I now have I have two VAs, one full-time, one part-time. My full-time one does all the web development stuff for me. So anytime I need any changes on any websites that I own, I tell him what to do, and Mike, he'll go ahead and do it. And he does a great job, and I don't want to do that stuff anymore. And so I'm happy to do that. And it took me a while to sort of get over not having total control over everything and sort of delegating some of the work that I wanted to do in my business to other people who knew how to do it better and faster than me.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's one of the things I talked to Michael about was just what stuff were you willing to let go, even though it's something you maybe love to do or not love to do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. I know a lot of people are going to get a lot of help out of just hearing everything you've said, whether it's something you're an expert on or something you struggled with. And that's what's, the beauty of talking with others just like this. It's kind of like I'm trying to help people surround themselves with others that, are further down along the road.
Yeah, I mean, listening to podcasts like yours, Eric, is one way to do it too, and one way to stay motivated. One way to, just realize that we all started where you were too. You're where you are now, and it was 4 years ago that I had just gotten laid off. Probably around this time, actually. It's October now. Yeah, so exactly 4 years ago, I was laid off, and I was right where a lot of listeners are right now, or even behind them. So, and
you've come a long way.
I've come a long way. It wasn't easy. It took a lot of time and work, and just I think what helped the most too is just I loved the challenge. I loved figuring things out, and I love what I do. I love what I do, and that makes it not seem like work at all.
That's awesome. Well, I would love for you to share any place you would love to tell, have people go look at what you're doing, whether that's Smart Passive Income, your website, or the podcast, or any of that stuff. Plug your stuff.
Smartpassiveincome.com, of course, is the blog. I would love for you to come say hi to me on Facebook. Just go to facebook.com/smartpassiveincome. I say hi to everyone there who says hi. It's a great community there. And yeah, that's all. So the blog or facebook.com/smartpassiveincome.
Great. Pat, thanks again.
Thank you for having me, Eric.
Yeah, I had a great time.
Me too.
Talk to you later.
See you. Bye.
Well, I just want to say thanks again to Pat Flynn for joining me this week. He, as well as myself and a few other interviewees from this show, are all speaking at New Media Expo in January. We'd love it if you'd come check it out at beyondthetodolist.com/NMX and check out all the different sessions for bloggers, podcasters, and web content creators to learn how to take all your efforts in those areas to the next level, as well as network with others who are interested in doing the same. I know I had a blast in New York City when it was back in June, and I hope to see you there. Again, to get your tickets and get more information, check out beyondthetodolist.com/NMX. And again, if you found this episode helpful, please go to iTunes, give us a 5-star review, and pass the show on Facebook and Twitter. Till next episode, I'm Eric Fisher. Beyond the To-Do List is a proud member of Noodle Mix Network at noodle.mx. Find more great podcasts like How to Podcast, Clean Comedy, Once Upon a Time, Christian Worldview, and more at noodle.mx. Think, laugh, and succeed by subscribing to our podcasts at noodle.mx.